All right, let's talk about prepping for a huge exam, something like the UGC NET Management. For most of us, it feels like this massive, high-pressure sprint to the finish line. But what if it didn't have to be like that? What if it could be more of a journey? Today, we're diving into a study guide that completely flips the script, throwing out the old-school manuals for something totally different.
You know that feeling, right? You're buried in books, it's late at night, the pressure is just mounting. It can feel so isolating and, honestly, just plain stressful. And that's a pretty universal feeling for anyone who's ever had to study for a big test.
And this quote right here, it just nails the whole philosophy of this new approach. The goal isn't some frantic race to cram everything in. It's about taking a deliberate, thoughtful walk. It's a journey where the real focus is on actually understanding the material, not just memorizing facts.
Okay, so let's unpack that idea a little bit. The whole premise is to swap out that usual exam anxiety with a sense of, gentle progress and maybe even discovery. It's a huge shift in mindset right from the get-go.
So, how does that actually work? Well, a huge part of it is the book's structure. This isn't a textbook that's just talking at you. It's designed to feel more like a living, breathing conversation that pulls you right in. It's constantly asking you questions, making you think, so you're not just passively reading. And that conversation, it happens in places we can all picture. The book actually sets its scenes on quiet library benches, or during those late-night study sessions on a terrace, or even just over a simple chai break. By grounding the learning in these really familiar settings, it makes even the most complex topics feel way more accessible and, well, real.
But if it's a conversation, who exactly are you talking to? That brings us to the book's really unique format. You see, you've got these built-in study companions for your journey.
This is so important because it tackles that loneliness that can creep in when you're studying for hours on end. The whole idea is that you've got companions on this walk, which makes the entire process feel a lot more collaborative and supportive from the very start.
So, meet your guides, Meera and Aarav. Now, these aren't some all-knowing professors who are miles ahead of you. They're presented as your peers, the recent grads who are basically exploring all this material right alongside you. They ask questions, they have their own doubts, and they share those aha moments of discovery. It makes the whole learning process feel so much more authentic and way less intimidating.
So all of this, the conversational style, the study companions, it's all powered by a core teaching method. The source material calls it a pedagogy of care, and it's really the engine that makes this entire approach work. Now, pedagogy of care might sound a little academic, but the idea is actually super simple. It's a way of teaching that goes way beyond just listing facts. It's all about using questions, creating metaphors, and connecting big theories to everyday stuff so that you don't just know a concept, you can actually feel it. The goal is what the book calls emotional clarity, that amazing moment when a tricky theory finally clicks into place.
And that connection to real life is absolutely everything. This is where this whole method really shines, because it bridges that huge gap that so often exists between abstract academic theories and the practical world we all live in.
I mean, how do you make a complex theory actually stick in your brain? Well, you connect it to something tangible. This book will talk about the strategy behind how a cup of coffee is priced, or it'll analyze union negotiations in a factory. By anchoring the syllabus in these kinds of real-world examples, the concepts just become so much more intuitive and a whole lot easier to remember.
So, what's the end game? What's the real payoff of approaching studying this way? Well, it's about so much more than just passing an exam. The ultimate payoff is about developing the kind of empathy and strategic thinking that you're going to need for a really successful career. And don't worry, this method absolutely gets you ready for the test itself. The final section takes on real questions from past papers, but, and this is key, it doesn't just give you the right answer. First, it puts each question in context. Then, it emotionally decodes the answer. That means it breaks down the why, the logic, and even the human element behind the correct choice, so you understand it on a much deeper, more intuitive level.
In the end, this is the book's promise. It's an invitation to step into your future profession, not just with the right knowledge, but with the right mindset. To walk in with dignity, with empathy, and with a really clear strategic vision. It's about shaping the kind of leader you're going to become.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What if we completely reframed exam prep? What if it wasn't this stressful hurdle we just have to get over, but instead an actual journey of personal and intellectual growth? It's a pretty powerful idea to think about.